Police are investigating 3 separate shootings from last night, which they believe are related. They left 1 teen sent to hospital and 2 men dead.
Oh, it's 2 of them. What the fam?
I ain't trying to slide you in the phone.
She getting risky slide. Bitch, you better take his life. Yeah, he ain't stopping right. I call my shooter, he waste no time. Now he ain't certified.
Toronto's streets have seen violence before, but few names struck fear like Jackboy Torri. By the age of 19, he'd been tied to multiple armed robberies, kidnappings, and 4 separate murders. Police launched one of the city's most intense manhunts to stop him, but behind the headlines are deeper questions. How does a kid left behind in community housing transform into one of the most feared names in the screw-face capital? It all begins here. At the intersection of Leslie and Finch sits a Toronto community housing complex known as Sparrowways. Don't get it twisted, this isn't just regular housing. It's a block riddled with street politics and bullets. Different hoods across Toronto have their own cliques and alliances, and Sparrowways is no different. Their closest ties run with the Driftwood Crips, based out of Jane and Finch, and Maze Block, a violent set from the Jane and Shepherd neighborhood. On the other side were their rivals, the Connection Young Bloods and OKG, both blood-affiliated crews holding down the south side of Jane and Finch. In a city already divided by blocks and borders, these alliances and rivalries would set the stage for some of the deadliest conflicts Toronto had ever seen. For a lot of kids from Sparrowways, ripping the block wasn't even a choice, it was survival. You either moved with your people or risked being a target. For Jackboy Torri, this wasn't just home, this was where his whole identity got shaped. From early on, life wasn't stable. At just 11, Torri's mom got deported back to Guyana, leaving him and his 5 siblings behind in a small community housing unit. His oldest sister, barely grown herself, had to play mom while trying to hold the family together. Money and food were tight, and options were slim. As a young teenager, Torri later admitted that he and his little brother would steal from lockers at their local YMCA and Good Life just to scrape together money for food and clothes. On top of that, tragedy hit close. His older brother Jaleel came home from jail only to die a week later, a loss that pushed the family even deeper into struggle. By the time Torri hit his teens, the small hustles weren't enough. Soon enough, the thefts turned into stick-ups. Massage parlors became the main target, spots with cash flow, where the workers usually stayed quiet because of the type of illicit business they were running. That's where Torri linked up with Jago Anderson, an older teen with a different kind of presence. Anderson wasn't sloppy, he was calculated, always armed, always thinking 2 steps ahead. With him, Torri graduated from being a broke kid stealing sneakers to a stick-up kid moving with real firepower. The tough guy persona wasn't just in the streets either. An audio clip once surfaced of him slapping someone for what he claimed was disrespect, a moment that fed into his growing rep.
Folks around you. That's how you talk to me. That's how I'm you up, bro. Real shit. Don't ever try this. Don't you mouth. Yo, bro.
He even popped up in the music video for Like a Movie by Rones and J Stain, rocking a Burberry shirt and black ski mask, hitting some questionable dance moves that still made it clear he wanted to be seen. For Torri, every move was another step deeper into a life that would eventually bring him face to face with 4 separate murder charges by the age of 19. But the streets talk, and in Toronto, once your name gets tied to robberies and murders, you don't stay under the radar for long. Cops start watching, and the street politics only get deeper. Throughout 2018, Torri and Jago Anderson robbed at least 20 various businesses, many of them spas. The duo targeted massage spas because they were high-cash businesses that often avoided calling the police. Many of these spas operated in a semi-private and formal way, sometimes offering illegal sexual services, which made them less likely to report robberies. That meant quick money with a lower chance of getting caught, which made them appealing targets for teens trying to make fast cash.
Hello, I called 911 right now. I called 911, okay? I called 911.
Torri's role was clear: hold the gun, threaten anyone in the way, and watch the door while Anderson grabbed the cash. They used encrypted BlackBerry messages to plan each job. On September 9, 2018, their criminal hustle was caught clearly on camera. At a spa on Lakeshore Boulevard West, Anderson and Torri stormed inside, robbing the business at gunpoint. Victims later described their clothing and appearance, descriptions that matched the young men almost exactly. It was a sign of things to come. Just days later, on September 14, 2018, the violence escalated far beyond spa robberies. 16-year-old Elijah Aziever was standing near his home at 126 Bellamy Road in Scarborough. A neighbor remembered letting him charge his phone just before he stepped outside, making plans to meet someone. Minutes later, the peace of the neighborhood shattered. Gunfire rang out. Aziever was struck and killed, a teenager gunned down in front of his own community. Surveillance captured the killers speeding off in a dark Infiniti SUV, later revealed to be leased to Jago Anderson's mother. The Crown argued Anderson was behind the wheel, while Torri was one of the two shooters who pulled the trigger. But the night wasn't over. Court documents later revealed that, in the aftermath of Aziever's murder, Torri texted his girlfriend asking for the address of a Scarborough house party. She sent him the location. By 11 p.m., Torri was there, and once again, shots rang out. Neighbors' surveillance cameras captured the chaos as he allegedly fired a handgun into a crowd of people leaving the party.
Jamming me, dog? What's inside that? Jamming me? What's inside that? What?
Are you stupid? Are you fucking stupid? You're gonna come to my party and jam my man? Are you dumb? Are you stupid? I bought him this shit. Why is that coming to my party?
Forensic testing later tied those shell casings to both the Bellamy Road killing and a separate shooting that occurred at Ross Lord Park earlier that same night. It was a chilling chain of evidence, each bullet linking Jackboy Torri to more crimes. Fast forward a few days and things were about to spiral even further. On September 18, 2018, Torri and Anderson robbed With Me Beauty Spa, located on Shepherd Avenue East in Scarborough. They stole money and a victim's iPhone. Caught again on surveillance, Anderson wore a red t-shirt and Raptors cap, Torri a dark hoodie and striped pants. An RCMP officer who was in the area on an unrelated matter saw the two men leave the area in a dark blue Infiniti SUV. Minutes later, they appeared outside another spa, the Golden Sunray. At 8:28 p.m., a single shot rang out in the parking lot. When the Infiniti SUV tore away, 19-year-old Jago Anderson was dead, laying on the ground, from a single bullet to the head. The getaway vehicle, the same Infiniti tied to the Aziever murder, was later found torched on 58 Corning Road, deliberately set ablaze. Inside, police found ID belonging to an employee of the Golden Sunray Spa. Surveillance caught Torri fleeing the area on foot before being picked up by a lift ordered by his girlfriend. The Crown painted Anderson's death as deliberate, a cold execution. Perhaps Anderson knew too much about the Aziever killing, or maybe it was a dispute over cash. Either way, investigators believe Torri silenced his partner intentionally. Torri's version was very different. It was simply a tragic accident. He claimed Anderson had asked to see a gun in the parking lot, then in a clumsy handoff the weapon discharged. Jago was a good guy, Torri testified softly. He put money in my pocket. But prosecutors called this story absurd. Anderson, known for being cautious, would never casually handle a gun in public. And the wound, a clean shot to the temple, was, in the Crown's words, not an accident. Following Jago's death, police pressure mounted. On September 24, 2018, Jackboy Torri was arrested and charged with 2 counts of attempted murder by the Gun Violence Suppression Unit on unrelated matters. Think about that for a second. Torri wasn't only making headlines for the spa stick-ups. By September 2018, he was already booked on 2 attempted murder charges for completely different situations. For a then 17-year-old kid, that's wild. When he was arrested, police found a pair of black Nike pants with a white stripe, the same kind linked to the spa robberies. Testing revealed 6 particles of gunshot residue on his pants and hoodie. Detectives also seized 2 phones, an iPhone 7 and a BlackBerry. Breaking into them proved difficult. But when new software finally cracked the 6-digit passcode in late 2019, investigators uncovered a goldmine: 44,000 pages of texts, photos, videos, and location data. Evidence showed Torri posing with firearms, arranging robberies, and even searching online for spas in North York. His Wi-Fi connections and messages with his girlfriend mapped his movements almost hour by hour. We'll get more into detail about what was found later in the video, but the phone became the Crown's most powerful witness. Yet controversy surrounded the search. Defense lawyer Gary Grill, who later made headlines representing rapper Top 5 and helping him beat a murder charge, argued that police had strip-mined Torri's phone, digging through private data well beyond the limits of their warrants and trampling on his constitutional right to privacy. And the cops hadn't been perfect either. Property reports were misplaced, warrants expired, even a USB drive containing the data went missing. Still, prosecutors pushed back, insisting the evidence was solid and tied directly to the murders. The courts agreed, and the phone evidence became central to the case. Fast forward to July 9, 2019, 9 months after Torri's arrest, the Crown dropped the 2 attempted murder charges. For a lot of people, that was shocking. 2 serious shootings tied to his name, and just like that, the charges were gone. Even more surprising, Torri was granted bail a month later on August 15, walking back out onto the streets while still connected to a long list of robberies under investigation. To the public, it felt like the system had just handed him another chance. But freedom didn't slow him down. Not even a month later, Torri was back in the streets, right back on his bullshit. On August 31st, Toronto police say Jackboy Torri was already at the center of another violent crime. Near Leslie Street and Finch Avenue in North York, 3 armed men allegedly kidnapped and robbed 2 victims at gunpoint. Though the victims escaped unharmed, investigators quickly identified one of the suspects, and to no surprise, it was Torri. At just 19 years old, he was now wanted for kidnapping, robbery with a firearm, pointing a gun, motor vehicle theft, and extortion. It was a stunning reminder. Bail hadn't slowed him down one bit, it had only set the stage for his next move. 24 hours later, on the night of October 1st, 2019, gun violence gripped the city's northwest end yet again. In just over an hour, 3 separate shootings unfolded in the Jane and Shepherd area. The scenes were connected not just by geography, but by the chilling precision of the attackers. Police would later describe it as a coordinated rampage, one that left 2 men dead, a teenager with life-altering injuries, and an entire community shaken. Behind the wheel of the violence was a deadly trio, Jackboy Torri, who had teamed up with Maze Block members Eric Rowe, better known as Rico, and Josiah Blair Taylor, aka Jizzy. According to Street Chatter, Jizzy had been shot just a day before, and instead of laying low, the crew decided to strike back, going on a drill that would turn the city upside down. The violence began around 8:11 p.m. near Venetian Crescent, close to Driftwood Avenue. 16-year-old Adrian Cebulak was walking home, distracted by a video game on his phone. Out of nowhere, a white Volkswagen Golf pulled up behind him. He noticed what looked like lasers cutting through the dark. In an instant, shots rang out. Cebulak sprinted, throwing his arms over his head. Bullets tore through his fingers, leaving him with permanent disabilities. Investigators later concluded those shots weren't just meant to scare him, they were aimed at his head. Just over half an hour later, at 8:46 p.m., the same white Volkswagen surfaced at 2000 Shepherd Avenue West, a housing complex a short drive away. Surveillance footage showed 3 figures stepping into the courtyard. 2 were masked, the third was not. Prosecutors would later argue the unmasked man was Torri. Without warning, they fired multiple rounds toward the building, sending residents running for cover. Though no one was struck, shell casings scattered across the scene confirmed multiple firearms were used. It was another act of calculated terror. The night reached its bloody climax at 9:27 p.m. at 306 Grand Ravine Drive, a blood-affiliated block known to the streets as The Lane. This time, surveillance cameras caught everything. A Volkswagen pulled up. 3 men jumped out the back seat, all strapped. They moved fast through a breezeway into the courtyard, where 24-year-old Delonte Bryant was standing. Gunfire erupted. Shots tore into Bryant's head and upper body. He dropped instantly, gone before he even had a chance to move. But then came the twist. Rico, one of the shooters, caught a bullet to the head. Forensics later pointed to friendly fire, and word spread that it was his own boy, Jizzy, who had accidentally pulled the trigger. As Rico lay on the ground bleeding out, the cameras caught something even colder, his 2 accomplices bending over him, stripping him of his phone and firearm before sprinting back to the car. Not long after, cell phone footage surfaced, showing the aftermath. Bryant being wheeled off on a stretcher, with Rico following behind on another. In the background, a voice cut through the chaos. Cypher, the older brother of rapper Hood Baby Peppa, can be heard mocking Rico.
You stay up, stay up! I swear to God, you stay up, man. Just remember, one day, eh?
Oh, it's two of them. What the fam?
How you trying to slide you under the pack? How you trying to slide you under the pack? You a pussy.
It was personal. The crew had just sprayed Peppa's crib, with the bullets rumored to be meant for Cypher, and now the block was watching one of them pay the ultimate price. But what happened after might have been even darker. Word spread fast in the streets, and Jizzy knew the whispers were aimed at him. He wasn't just paranoid, he was convinced Rico's homies were going to kill him for the accident. Terrified, he supposedly confessed the whole thing to Rico's own mother, like he was begging for forgiveness before it all caught up to him. And then, just when things couldn't get more twisted, fate doubled down. Only days later, Jizzy's cousin, Deshane Taylor, aka SP, was shot dead while sitting in his car. The timing was too close. Panicked, Jizzy fled the city, disappearing before the streets could deliver their payback. By the end of that night, Toronto had two new murder victims, Delonte Bryant, executed in the courtyard, and Eric Rowe, a gunman turned casualty. Meanwhile, Adrian Cebulak, the teen shot earlier in the spree, was left facing a lifetime of disability. Police knew they had to move fast. The shooters weren't slowing down until either someone stopped them or they ended up dead themselves. Investigators began piecing the case together with surveillance video, ballistics, and cell phone data. Forensic experts matched shell casings across all three shootings, proving that at least one gun had been carried from scene to scene. Investigators also noted how the shooters moved with precision, coordinated, and deliberate. The Volkswagen Golf, the vehicle used in the shootings, was a ghost. Its plates were too blurry to read, and the car had no unique features to trace. But technology left other clues. Detectives tracked a SIM card linked directly to Jackboy Torri. Cell records showed his device moving in tandem with phones belonging to Jizzy and Rico. Hours before the murders, all three phones pinged at a cell tower near Driftwood Crypt territory. Then, like clockwork, the devices went dark during the shootings, only to light up again after the bloodshed. To prosecutors, it was a digital fingerprint tying Torri to every move that night. Rico's role wasn't up for debate, he died at the scene. Jizzy as well, his distinctive dysfunctional left arm visible in the footage. That left the third gunman. The Crown argued it was Torri, the shooter in a white top, firing left-handed, moving alongside Rico and Jizzy. His left-handedness, his clothing, and his known ties to the others built the case. What Torri did after the murders only made things worse. He showed up at Rico's funeral, and days later was spotted at Yorkdale Mall, shopping with Rico's friends, flashing cash, and wearing the same padded jacket seen in the surveillance. Fortunately, by October 20th, 2019, less than a month after the killings, Jackboy Torri's run came crashing down in Thunder Bay, Ontario. Police had been dispatched to a disturbance on Pearl Street, a call that would set off a chain of events leading straight to him. Hours later, officers executed a high-risk takedown on Lake Street, swarming a vehicle carrying 4 people from Toronto. Inside, they uncovered a loaded handgun, roughly $16,000 worth of crack cocaine, $5,000 worth of fentanyl, and another $5,000 in cash. Among those pulled from the car was then 19-year-old Torri, hiding under the alias Dimitri Green, carrying an Ontario health card that wasn't his. For a year, he had slipped through the cracks, sticking up spas and leaving bodies in his wake. But on that night, the ride was over. After months of bloodshed, Jackboy Torri was finally in handcuffs. Then came trial time, and the courtroom turned into a stage. Torri, now 22, took the stand and testified at length. He denied knowing 16-year-old Elijah Aziaver would be killed, insisting the guns he handed over were only for robberies, not executions. He then admitted firing one of those guns at the Alder Roadhouse party, but said it was just for show. On the death of Jago Anderson, his closest partner in crime, Torri swore it was accidental, a panic-filled mistake after a night of spa robberies. Even when pressed, he refused to name anyone else involved. "I don't want to be a snitch," he told the court, explaining that silence was his only protection inside and outside prison. Torri's lawyer, Gary Grill, pushed back on the Crown's case. He argued that there was no clear motive for the killing of Jago Anderson. According to Grill, Anderson wasn't just an associate, he was Torri's access to both money and guns through their string of spa robberies. Eliminating him made little sense. And if it was intentional, Grill argued, why do it there, in public, right before a robbery with people around? In his words, this is the worst place to kill someone. But the Crown countered with a mountain of evidence, much of it pulled from Torri's own phone. Detectives uncovered data that tied him not just to the murders, but to a wider web of violence. Investigators combing through the device stumbled on photos and documents belonging to a robbery victim named Maria Gonzalez. Police connected that to a Peel Region home invasion on September 3, 2018, where 3 armed men tied up Gonzalez, stole property, including her iPhone, which was later linked to Torri's Apple ID. Digging deeper, officers found evidence linking Torri to multiple other incidents. A shooting at the Scarborough Center for Alternative Studies on September 12, 2018, another at Ross Lord Park 2 days later, and the Alder Road party shooting later that same night. Going through the court files paints a wild picture. Before Torri even turned 20, he was already tied to 20 massage parlor robberies, a break-and-enter, an armed robbery, a kidnapping, 7 separate shootings, 2 attempted murders, and 4 premeditated killings. It's clear Torri wasn't a victim of circumstance. He was an active player in a violent campaign across the city. Despite the lengthy rap sheet, investigators prioritized the 4 murders tied to his name: Elijah Aziaver, Jago Anderson, Delonte Bryant, and Rico. To prosecutors, the timeline from Venetian Crescent to Grand Ravine Drive wasn't random chaos, it was a coordinated plan. The defense pushed back hard. They warned about the dangers of misidentification in grainy video, pointed out that Torri was often just a stick figure in the Crown's narrative, and dismissed the phone records as circumstantial. They argued that association with known shooters didn't prove he pulled the trigger. Still, the judge noted the strength of the Crown's case. In the end, the story told by surveillance, ballistics, and digital breadcrumbs was simple. Torri was there, and he was firing. In June 2024, now 24 years old, Jackboy Torri was given 3 life sentences with no chance of parole for 25 years for the first-degree murders of Delonte Bryant, Jago Anderson, and Rico. He was also handed a 12-year sentence for the attempted murder of Adrian Cebulak, who was shot and left permanently injured. Although he wasn't convicted for the first-degree murder of Elijah Aziaver, Torri's punishments will all run concurrently, meaning it's almost certain that he will never walk free again.